One. Okay. So what is SEO? You probably believe that SEO is about getting your site to #1 in Google. He builds WordPress websites for large commercial companies. His brand name, his company is associated with that. That's the same thing that you should be aiming to do. To where when people think of your company, there's no doubt in their mind what you do and who you do it for. So how do you build a brand? Step one is you got to get visibility on Google. You got to be seen in Google. You got to be seen in Bing, and other platforms as well. Whether that's Yelp, whether that's Facebook, whether that's an industry-specific website, you're trying to build your reach as far as possible. That's all going to play into SEO. How you do that? Content is one way. The question that most people have when it comes to SEO, what exactly does Google look at when they're ranking sites? How do they rank sites? That's the secret formula, this $64,000 question. So step one is Google crawls web pages from link to link. They create an index of pages. And when you type your search query into Google, what you're seeing is the best results from that index of pages. It's all the pages that are indexed. If it can't crawl your pages, it can't index them. So the pages that it finds go into that, and then it ranks them based on the query, the search that you're doing, maybe other factors like your location, your search history, what it feels the intention of your search is. Because Google in itself too is trying to solve your problem. You're trying to find an answer to a question, it's trying to deliver the best answer. So matching searcher intent. When we talk about search intent, it's what are you trying to find when you're typing in a word. For example, if you type in real estate, most of the time it's going to give you a localized listing. If you type in something like insurance or any type of service-based business, there's going to be a lot of localized searches that show up there. There might be other things as well. Now, say if you search for something else like cloud computing, then it's going to give you a list of definitions because you're not necessarily looking for that service. But what Google's results, tests, experiments, what they've done over time shows that people are looking for a definition. So matching searcher intent. Do they want to buy something? Are they researching something? Is it somewhere in between? Do they, you have to figure out what the search intent is. Part of how we do that is looking at the actual search results of what Google is ranking and trying to create content that matches that searcher intent. As I mentioned, geolocated search results happen. That's one of the things if you are, this is a thing that a lot of people have a question on. Say you have a business that's based in a certain city, but you're trying to rank for a big old geography around you. I just had somebody ask this on my site. They said, we do this particular service and we're trying to rank for all of the UK and then all of the US. How do you do that? Well, because all we're getting is, like, we're in the map for our zip code and that's it. I said, Google is, you can't fight against the system. You can't fight against the grain. What's going to return in the map, you're not going to outrank like everybody in the entire world. It's going to return the businesses that are in your local area because they figure like people want to find something close. Now, in the regular links, I told this person too, there's some other sites that have your type of service. If you want to get global reach, you should consider getting on some of those sites where they partner with other people. It's almost like an affiliate thing where you can be listed there. So that's another thing, geolocated. Yelp, you'll see that a lot of Yelp results are at the top, the same reason. They know that people are searching for the best solution. So, machine learning. This is something that is about 2 years old now. Google's AI, their machine learning, is something that they call rank brain. And it's basically, I would say right now it's at the level of a small child, its learning capacity. It's not like Terminator level yet, it's not Skynet. But they're running experiments continually. They're feeding it information, trying to figure out how to evolve the algorithm in real time and deliver the best results. So that is something that's out there right now. It's not just people like twisting levers and ranking your competitors above you, but it's actually measuring what happens like after you click a result and seeing what actions you take on the page. I will say this too, like Google has several patents on all kinds of technology to actually measure the level of satisfaction that you have once you go to a result. They actually, not saying that they use this in their search results or their search algorithm right now, but they do have patents on biometric measuring the satisfaction, such as, for example, and I'll just say one example. Say you search something on your phone and you're looking at the page, facial recognition from the camera. Is your face like smiling? Is it like, I don't like that, I'm gonna go back. But they do measure all sorts of things. Time on page, how far you scroll down, actions that you take on the page, you fill out a form, what's happening. So this is a part of Google's system that a lot of people don't know about, and it's search quality raters. It's not just the algorithm itself making these decisions. Now, they employ thousands of people whose job it is to look at the actual search results and then measure the quality of that page. Now, they have a whole system, like basically a checklist of things that they look at. The main content of the page, say they'll look at the top 10 results. Is the content on this page satisfying? What about the supplemental content on the page? Is it satisfying? What about the trustworthiness of the site? Is it aesthetically pleasing? Am I finding what I'm looking for? Who's the people behind this site? Can I find contact information? Do I know who wrote this piece of content? All these things are graded. Now, what the human quality search raters do is they submit these reports. Now, these do not directly affect your search rankings, but the engineers at Google, they take this information and they try and adjust the algorithm to replicate what human beings would find. So what human beings would find satisfying as a result. So that means, what things does the algorithm need to look for in order to rank a page higher or lower? So that is something to be aware of as well. So how do you make your rankings go up? Google, in the last several editions of their quality search rater guidelines, has used an acronym called EAT, E-A-T, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. Expertise. Do you show that you're the expert on your subject? Do you have content on your site that others find useful? Are people sharing this content? Are they linking to it? Are they spending a lot of time reading it on the page? Are you regarded as an expert by other people within your industry? What sort of things would be indicators of that around the web? It's not just things that are on your website directly, but it's things that are on the web in general. And you want to be thinking about these attributes. If you were Google, how would you measure the expertise of a given site or a given author on a site? How would you measure that? Links is one way for sure. How many mentions you get, people quoting you, guest posts, all these sorts of things are ways that Google can measure your expertise. Authority is your content respected by others? Does your content give the right answers to people's questions? And Does it help them solve their problems? Do people look for your brand by name? Branded search that's the holy grail. And honestly, that's what you want people to be doing, is searching for your company name around your given industry. That's really what you should be aiming for, because that's a really strong indication to Google that you are an authority and people are looking for your content directly. Trustworthiness. Does your site, does your brand look, sound, and feel like an authority? When people go to your site, are they inspired with confidence that what they're going to find there is going to answer their questions? And what I mean by that is, part of that is, do they know who's behind the site? Or are you one of those sites where you hide behind a nameless, faceless brand and you go to a site and you don't know who's in the company at all? When you go to the site, does it look like it was built in 1999? I mean, who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust a site that's built in 2018 and looks like it? Looks like everything else out there on the web, or the site that looks like it was built in 1998? So if an uninformed searcher came to your page, would they find what they were looking for? Would they feel safe there? Would they feel like they could trust what you're saying is the truth? And would they do business with you? And what's your brand reputation? That's another thing that goes into the search algorithm as well, is what's the overall reputation of your brand? Are people turning you into rip-off report or saying this person scammed me? Do you have plenty of positive Google reviews, Yelp reviews, third-party reviews, Better Business Bureau? If you're a real estate agent, are you getting reviews on Zillow or Trulia? If you're a lawyer, are you getting reviews on Avo? If you're a doctor or a health practitioner, are you getting reviews on Health Grades? Those are all things that go into your brand reputation. And believe it or not, Google does actually look at all those things as an indicator of whether your site should be ranked higher or not. And those are things that can't be solved by sprinkling SEO dust on your site. Those are things that you have to do within your organization. So the three legs of the table, the SEO table. This is an analogy that I like to use, but the three legs: content, the sites that are linking to your link profile, how authoritative and relevant is it, and user experience of your site. But we can also look at that as expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So those three things: the content, the links coming into your site, and you're not going to get links to your site without content, and user experience. So content is how you can compete with big brands. Big brands win because they've been investing in content for decades. And a story I like to tell. Does anybody here know how the Guinness Book of World Records came about? Guinness Book of World Records actually came about as a form of content marketing. Trivia in pubs. People would debate about, who had the record this or the record of that. It was a book that was made for trivia night in pubs, like way long ago. Another example. Is anybody familiar with the Michelin Guide for restaurants?
Yeah.
You know how that came about? That was a form of content marketing at the turn of the century. When cars were new, highways were new, and in France, the Michelin company had to figure out a way for people to sell more tires. People can't buy more tires if the tires aren't getting driven down. So they know rich people, they have chauffeurs. Rich people like to go to restaurants. We're going to make a form of content marketing called the Michelin Guide, where we highlight the best restaurants in all of France. And so those people are going to drive around. They're going to visit all the restaurants. Tires are going to get worn down. They're going to buy more tires. Then they expanded it out. It's a true story. Then they expanded it out to Belgium. They expanded to all the countries in the world. It was a form of content marketing. So in the same way, think about how brands are built in the 21st century. All brands in the 21st century are being built with digital content. It's not enough to have a 5-page site. where you just have home, about, your services, and your contact. You've got to have content. If you want people to search for your brand, if you want people to build links to your site, if you want people to be searching for things, content is how you compete. When you look at any big enterprise brand, they've got thousands, sometimes millions of pages of content. And I'm not saying that you need to have thousands of pages or even hundreds of pages, but you got to make an effort to share your expertise. And everybody in this room who's a business owner that's had decades of experience, you got to get that out onto the page. So however you do it, make time for it. Because that's how you're going to compete with a big brand. You're a media company. Everybody in this room that owns a business is a media company, like it or not. Your blog, your YouTube channel, your social media accounts, all that is what you're publishing to the world. So you're proving it every single day. Every company in the world in your industry is competing with you. And how you win is by building brand awareness through content, publishing out on all your different brand channels, and just hyping the heck out of it. So, and that's how you get branded search. Yes?
So, it seems like the trend is photos and a few words.
Right.
And I remember, back in the day, you blog and it's do 300 words and,
yeah.
And then you do the content. So how, my site has a lot of images and few words.
Right.
How do you establish?
Are you a photographer?
No.
Oh, okay. What do you do?
It's like a tour guide, basically.
Okay. So you're a tour guide. So write about the places that people go that they want to see, and intermix the images. Let's be platform agnostic too. Say if you're on Instagram, share a photo with just some words, or share a story. Use your phone to record an Instagram story. That also goes out on Facebook. But on your actual website, you could share stories of places that people go. Like, for example, even like a history of a particular town or a city. What's something interesting, like a historical monument or a historical place? What's an interesting story behind that? Because everything has a story in it if you look for it. But I would say that when it comes to different platforms, just find the ones that work for you and that you can commit time to, because it's better to have 2 or 3 brand channels that you post to regularly than to have 7 or 8 that you just kind of do halfway. Yes?
How do you run a business and do all of this too?
You make time for it. You schedule time for it. Or you delegate it out or hire somebody. But, you got to think about it like this. It's a chicken and egg thing. If you want to grow your business, you got to do marketing, right? Otherwise, you're just, waiting for the phone to ring and hoping that it rings.
I can help you with an exact example. I don't know what your business is, sir. It's a tour guide, but if you are not on Facebook, like I Love California, have you heard of that?
Mm.
And My Home is the Sierra. Are you on that?
No.
Okay, then you're not gonna make it. You gotta get on those pages. You can post there, read the rules, post, and then in the rules it'll say if you could put your name, your business or not, or it's just coming out of your personal Facebook. People will go, oh my God, look at that photograph, your little story, whatever, it'll come to your page. But you gotta get on those pages that are exploding right now.
What was the second one?
My Home is the Sierra and
My Home is the
I Love California,
Right.
I believe, are the 2
Okay.
main pages, and for just our area.
Right. So I
Yes.
totally appreciate that, but I guess
Yeah.
my question was more directed towards.
Yeah.
It seems like from my slightly antiquated understanding of search engine
Sure.
optimization, that it's text that Google is looking at, where now things seem to be moving towards a little bit of text and more images and video. So if content is king and the content is
Yep.
images and not, people are thumbed through and people
Okay.
don't read
Yeah.
big articles.
No, that's a good, okay, so that, yeah, and definitely.
Tag your photos.
Yeah, that's what I do. So, and that's a great thing, what I do. So YouTube is owned by Google. They're like the same company and they're the two biggest search engines. So, and like I was saying, like, have context. You know, have a written content for your site. It's text content is still the most easily understood. Google understands it. If you upload like on YouTube, it kind of does like a translation, but sometimes it's like a little bit off. But yeah, definitely. I mean, if you want to upload video too, you could do that. But like, you know, Jennifer mentioned as well, you want to tag your photos. And what I do is say, if I got a photo, instead of just uploading it just straight into my site, rename the file name instead of image 1063. Rename it to the keyword that you're trying to rank on that page. And then what I do, like I don't know if you got Mac or Windows, but I just right click, look at properties, and then you can interject like tags, comments, title of the actual image. Then you upload it into the page, and then Google Images kind of gets some of that more information. So you got the file name, you got the tags and the actual photo, and then alt text, the descriptive text. Yes.
How many tags? And how should you go crazy? Are these keyword phrases, or are they?
Just whatever's appropriate. You know, like as far as that, I mean, I just don't say like Instagram levels of, you know, like 20 bazillion tags in the photo, but like when you actually upload it, just the tags in the photo. But the alt text, that's there for screen readers, for blind people, that I would say just say what the image is. Don't try and like keyword stuff that part.
Oh, I heard you keyword that part, the alt text. You don't?
I don't keyword stuff to alt text. I show what's in the actual image. And the reason being is that's really there for screen readers, for people who are blind, and it's adding to the story. That's really what it's there for. That's how Google like wants you to use it. They want things to be actually accessible and not just, I'm trying to game the system. So, you know, choose an image that helps, that goes along with the text story of whatever the blog post is. If it's natural to put that keyword in there, then put the keyword in there. But if it's like something that you're trying to force, then I would just describe what's there. So, yes.
And I wanted to mention, it's interesting because I do have a media company and I produce a show, and I've talked to 100 businesses in the area about putting together videos, and everyone's like either too busy or I don't need it. So I really compliment you for bringing this to the forefront, because we live in a world of short attentions and all of this metadata is crucial. The second thing is YouTube has a scripting service now where they actually, if you have a video and people are talking, it'll write out a script of the conversation, and you can actually use that document of the text to use for putting up on your website or putting it on YouTube or wherever you want to use it. You don't have to sit there and transcribe every word. YouTube now does it for you.
Jennifer.
Does anybody have millennials, children?
How old's a millennial at this point?
Born in 2000, basically. Those are millennials, around the year 2000.
No, mine are cut off in the 90s.
Okay. What he's saying is true. I have 3 of them,
Yeah.
2018, 15. So yes, videos, short attention span. They do their homework and watch videos at the same time. So this is what they're doing.
And I want to point this out, and I'll get your question done for sure. But I want to say this, for people who don't want to invest in a professional videographer, how I do my YouTube channel, I got my iPhone 6. I got like a $20 tripod stand off Amazon. You just clip it like that. I record. And then, I'll edit it using like video software and then just upload it like that. So there's nothing stopping you except for just you making the time. Yes?
It sounds like a catch-22 in a way, because you're saying we need to have all this stuff in place, but until we get our thing up and we
Yeah.
gotta get our stuff in place, then it's like we don't have a chance, and you know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'm not explaining it very well.
Well, okay, so it depends on what, and again, it depends on the level of competition that you're up against. If you're trying to compete like nationwide, because you know, like I help a lot of people in the manufacturing or industrial space with SEO, so some of those people are competing nationwide. If you're just competing with people within a 50-mile radius, your competition might not be as fierce. But what's important is to schedule time to do it, to where it's not just like, I'll do it when I find time, because you'll never find time. Dennis?
I sell products,
Yeah.
not a service, so I sell all over the country.
Right?
And so one of the things that's important is not only the categories of the
Right.
various products, but then the products themselves. I understand, and of course, content, keywords, and all that sort of thing. I understand that if I copy and paste from one of my suppliers,
Right.
put them on the product or on the category, Google doesn't like that, that I'm supposed to create totally unique text about both
Right.
products and categories and that sort of thing. Is this what you're finding?
Yeah, so that's duplicate content. Google will already know, like, Dan. So Google will already know that your competitor made that original content. But yeah, so Google will know that your competitor made the original content. So what is stopping, so my question to you is there a reason like why you wouldn't put it in your own words?
Because there's hundreds of them.
Is
So
there
let me ask you
somebody,
this then. If I have a paragraph from
Sure.
duplicate, and I just change a few words within the sentence, do they still figure it out, or do I have to literally have?
it's a percentage, like duplicate content,
30.
like it's basically 51%.
Copyright laws, you don't wanna get messed up.
Yeah, you don't wanna
Taking
get-
someone's content, you
Yep.
need to change it a certain percent. Google it and find out what percent, it's
Yep.
30% usually for art and stuff like that. So you take what they say and change 30% of those words, just look in a thesaurus. That's what you have to
Or
do.
do the attribution.
Or link
Yeah, you
it,
can do the
link them.
attribution, yep,
If
exactly.
you do the attribution, where you actually put at the end, this information was taken from,
And
name
link-
the site and
yeah.
link back to the site, Google will be fine with that.
They might
Yep.
even return the favor and link to you. You can work out
Yeah,
relationships
that might
that
not
way.
work to link back to the
It
supplier.
depends.
'Cause a lot of these
Depends.
suppliers
Yeah.
are industrial suppliers, they're not
Right.
you know, people that have
There's-
websites that sell the
There's a
same
number of
product.
different tactics, but duplicate content is not a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's.
I would say,
So-
find a, oh, sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to interject because there's great questions and great
Yeah.
discussions. I would love to hear more of what you have, and especially about Yoast, since we're here to hear about that a little bit more. But I'm sure you'll be available to stay a little bit
I
and
will be
answer
available.
questions and.
What, are we at the cutoff?
No,
Oh, okay.
I.
Yeah, I'll be around, definitely. So, yeah, okay, yeah, I would say, Dennis, if in your situation, if you could find a college student or something like that that's good with writing, hire them to,
Change all of the stuff that I have on there now. Okay, that's okay.
yeah. You could do that.
Actually, Sierra College has a marketing,
That would be a good idea.
yeah, class where you could probably find interns.
And is that true for blogs? If you're doing a blog and you put an article in of something that's relevant to you in someone else's word, will it?
Yeah, you could do a block quote and then just link to where you took it from. And I know people they'll like copy paste like an entire article. And in that case, and in Yoast, what you want to do, there's a spot down there for a canonical tag, which is basically saying, here's the original article. And it'll output it in the HTML, won't be on the page, but Google will see it like, here's the original article. They're saying that that's the original article, and so they won't hit you up for that. So,
That's interesting.
so yeah, like I said, consistency is key. I schedule at least 20% of my week toward marketing, creating marketing materials, whether that's videos, whether that's blogging. Because here's the thing. You want more chances to be found in Google. And the only way that you're going to do that is by creating original content. every page that you create is going to be a chance for Google to rank you. And what I found is about 10 to 20% of the content that you create will end up ranking, or, competitively, but you will not necessarily know which 10 or 20% until you are at it for a while. Quick story, I worked for an agency doing some subcontracts like my very first year back in 2012. It's like, hey, I heard that blogging is like we're gonna try some blogs. Write some blogs for me and I'll pay you. So did like 4 blog posts, they published them in like 1 day on Medium. Oh, you didn't get any traffic, I quit. They never published like anything since then. So you can't quit that early. You have to kind of slog at it for a while. If you're consistent with it, then you're going to get traffic. Case in point, it's one of the people that's a real estate agent in Sacramento. I noticed she does like an almost daily blog. It's just about different neighborhoods in Sacramento. She ranks like #1. And a lot of it is because Google's seeing that topical, relevant, consistent content about a given subject. So everything's a chance, but you got to create it to put it out there. Because nobody's going to link to like your About Us page, unless you're your good friend, but that'll run dry. Like I said, content, it's a numbers game, 10 to 20%. Don't give up early. The #1 objection to content strategy, and I believe that was already mentioned, is don't have time. Everybody in this room is the same 24 hours in a day. All of us are running businesses, all of us are the same 24 hours. How you allocate it is up to you. So yeah, definitely. How you allocate that time is up to you. So if you make it a priority, then your business has a chance to grow. If you don't have time, if you're entirely busy running your business, tag team somebody else in, hire somebody, get someone in your family to help you out with it, hire someone that understands what you do really well and has good understanding of your business to help you out with it. But yeah, definitely make marketing and content creation a priority. Schedule it. Don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it to the time that you have left over. And we went over this, but you'll never have that time. Content is how you earn relevant links to back to your site. I'm very blessed. I have a handful of articles that I've had on my site that are ranking #1 or 2 for their terms. They didn't always, but the reason why is because people found them useful. They linked to them in code forums and different marketing blogs and things like that. So the more you create, the better chance you have, and eventually you're going to get a link.
I have a question.
Yes?
Is it important what time you publish? I heard that.
Time of day?
Uh-huh.
So if you're pushing it out on something like Facebook or Twitter or something like that, and you're wanting to get traffic, then I would time it out like that. So you can schedule it like if you have WordPress or something like that, you can schedule it for the next day like at peak time. But otherwise, like if you're just publishing it on your blog, it doesn't matter what time of day you push it out. It's more for trying to get social engagement. But I have things in place where I like reshare on Twitter, so it eventually gets more like that.
Well, if you share it to Facebook,
Yeah,
if it's a link, they're gonna not even show it because it's taking them off Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is a whole nother story too, because they pretty much make you pay for traffic. Even the people who like your business page, maybe like 5 to 10% of people will ever see it because they want the cash. So they're making you pay for your own thing. But that's why I say your blog and your brand properties are the best bet that you have. I don't rely necessarily on Facebook or something like that where they throttle the traffic and they want you to pay to get traffic. So we're talking about links. Getting links is a very big part of SEO. How do you get links with content? And but if you're hiring somebody to do links to your site, make sure that you see examples of the types of links that they're building. There are a lot of people that do SEO and they rely on what's called private blog networks, which are basically, they'll buy expired domains, they'll set up sites that look legitimate, they'll basically publish like a whole bunch of just kind of fluff content that links out to different client sites or their own site for the sole reason of getting links, and they kind of interlink to each other like link rings back in the day. Google for a long time has said link schemes are not a good thing. So be careful if you're ever hiring someone to do links and vet where they're coming from, because it could end up hurting your SEO in a big way. Yes?
Do you ever run the same search using a different engine to see what the results are?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, definitely. The two basically that most people use is, Google has the largest market share, but Bing is important too. A lot of people, I actually do better, slightly better in Bing for some terms than I do in Google, which is great. I would say like Bing is basically like Google, but like 5 years ago. So, yeah, definitely. I definitely keep track of that. We're talking about building links. Build links that make sense. Don't have them on just random sites. If you have friends with a similar business, or if you have industry colleagues that would share your content, or like share an excerpt from your content or a link to your site, that will help you out a lot. Relevant links, and it, like was mentioned with Roberto, like with the travel blog, there's other sites that are closely related to that where you might be able to get a link. That's a good idea. Those are good ideas. Those are the good types of links that you want to have because they're topically related to each other. And so, brand awareness, we talked about that. You know, you want to basically do everything in your power to make your brand memorable. Content is the biggest way. On your blog, on your social media, on YouTube. User experience is something that's very important, making sure that your site is at a minimum mobile friendly, loads fast, design doesn't look like it was made in the 1990s. Those things at a minimum. But I'm also throw in there too, I'm 47 now. My eyesight is still pretty good, but you know, a lot of these designers, they have like the super pale gray text on a white background.
Yeah.
I can't read it. My eyesight's still pretty good. So I know that there's people that have a lot of problem with that. So yeah, definitely those types of things. Making sure people can find what they're looking for. You know, run through your site as if you didn't know. Or, you know, here's a good thing that you can do. Spend $50 on user testing. Have somebody that doesn't know your site from a hole in the ground run through, try and complete some tasks, and you'll get like a video of them doing it and them talking out like what's happening. It'll be really eye-opening to see if your site has actually got good user experience or not. Technical SEO is another thing that we look at as well, making sure that you have HTTPS, not HTTP. In July, Google Chrome started having a little notice in the browser bar where it says not secure for any sites that are HTTP and not HTTPS. There's a lot of sites out there, a lot of hosts, I should say, that are out there, WordPress hosts that work with Let's Encrypt, and you can get an SSL for free. SiteGround, Flywheel, Kinsta, WP Engine, they all have that, so definitely check that out. Make sure that you don't have broken links on your site, 404s. There's a lot of other things that you can look at as well. So continual improvement in a mobile-first world, that's what we're looking at. This is everything. Everybody has one of these. It's the first thing you pick up in the morning, last thing you put down. And it's not that mobile overtook desktop because desktop use went down. This use went up. So your site has to be good on this. There's more devices in the world than there are people. That's a true fact. Go look it up. So definitely. Other SEO factors we didn't mention. Well, I did mention this, but get positive reviews for your site. Whenever a lot of people are not proactive about this, and they'll wait until they get hit with a 1-star review to then go collect 14 5-star reviews from previous customers. But be positive on, I would say, if you're looking at any type of local SEO, Google, Yelp, and then whatever industry specific site there is. If you're looking at just overall SEO, I would say Google, and then whatever industry specific, maybe other ones like Facebook, Better Business Bureau, YP.com. Matching searcher intent, we talked about that. If you'll see in Google results, just look at what's in the top 10. Is it all like shopping? Is it all, Wikipedia stuff? You're not going to be able to go against the grain or swim upstream. So if you're trying to rank for a certain specific keyword and you're making a page about that, look at what's already ranking, do something similar. Level of competition. Like we mentioned before, it's a lot different if you're just competing against local versus a national scene. So, definitely if you have stiff competition and you're up against global brands, be patient with it. If you're just competing with a couple of people within a 100-mile radius, then you have much better odds. And do people search for your brand by name? That's what you want to build your brand into, a place where people are searching for you. This is me, lockdownseo.com. That's the website. On YouTube, you can just search hashtag lockdownseo. On Twitter, I'm lockdown_. Any questions? Yes?
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One is, there is in your, in WordPress, you have the opportunity to mark some of your articles as cornerstone articles.
Right.
So what is the purpose and benefit and best practice as far as that's concerned?
Okay, so, and the question is, in WordPress, if you're using the Yoast SEO plugin, you can mark, I think it's like 4 articles as cornerstone content. So basically, these would be pages that are definitive articles or definitive pages on a subject that you're trying to rank. And what it does is when you look at all the other pages on your site, whenever you're editing them, Yoast will prompt you to do internal linking from those pages to one of those cornerstone articles. And the reason being, some of you might be familiar with PageRank. It's an old thing that Google used to use. It's basically saying for any page on the web, it has a certain value of link equity. And if it links out to another page, then that's kind of like a vote of confidence. But the same thing works for internal links on your own site. And even if you look in Google Search Console, if you look at internal linking, there's a tab there for that. It'll show you what pages you're linking to the most. And Google takes that as an indication of what are the most important pages on your site. What do you really want Google to look at? So that's what the cornerstone content is. That's how I use it. Because you'll notice whenever you edit a page or a post on your site, you might consider linking to this cornerstone content too, because it wants you to do internal linking to tell Google this page is important. And
do you change those, or that they stay static?
Generally speaking, I will find ones that either they're already ranking and they're like really definitive,
Right.
like they're like long things that answer like a whole ton of questions, or it'll be a page that like, hey, I really want to push this page because this is where I want people to really end up.
Thanks.
So, yes?
Do you think it's better to have a one-page website or multiple-page website?
Multiple.
To
Yeah, in almost
for
every
SEO?
case, yeah. And I'll tell you the reason why. I did do an article on ranking a single page site, but it's really tough, and I'll tell you why, is because you're trying to put all the content on one page, and you just have better odds. because for one, you're gonna have better odds of getting links from other sites, and you're gonna have better odds of Google understanding like each page is a separate thing that has a specific intent. Like, is it something like a restaurant site, or what type of thing is it?
Mechanic.
Okay, mechanic, yeah. I would definitely break it out.
Informational.
I would definitely break it out into different things like here's the home page, here's all our services, and then maybe maybe on the services page it has links to each of the individual services. Here's about us, here's our story, here's why we founded our business, and here's all the people, here's the team. And then if you want to contact us, here's contact form, email, here's directions to our thing. And that's what I'm saying, you can go into much greater level of detail if you break them out into separate pages. Yes?
I had a quick question. I do writing for the web, and one of the things I focus on is readability. Do you deal with that at all?
Yeah, so Yoast, that's a great question. If you use the Yoast plugin, again, there's a readability thing in there. You want to write in simpler terms rather than, more difficult terms, and it will give you prompts as well. I do use that a lot, so I try and make sure the sentences aren't, like 30 words long. Break it into smaller, like bite-sized chunks to where people can understand it. Don't use like big, like flowery 50-cent words unless it's really just going with the character of that piece. Another thing that I'll do as well, and this is something that I stole from Neil Patel and Brian Dean, is and this is something that you'll see on LinkedIn, they call it grow a tree, where it's basically you want to get people reading like the first few sentences. And you'll notice on my site, if you go and read any of my blog posts at this point, it'll be like one sentence, maybe like one sentence, and maybe like one more, and then it'll go into the flow of paragraphs. And the reason is you want to get people like engaged, and you want to get them like hooked into reading. And so like each sentence is kind of like broken into like its separate line. Some people take it way to the extreme. That's what I'm talking about on LinkedIn. Like it's a whole thing where every single thing is one sentence, but it keeps people reading down the page, and that ties into the attention span of what we are in a digital all the time 24/7 age. So yes.
On the Yoast thing.
Yes.
We'll write something up, and we go back and run it through Yoast. And it always seems like when we get it to the point it's green in Yoast, it doesn't read as smooth as it did before we started.
Right.
Is it more important to get it into the green or to get it more?
The green doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to rank. I have ones that are orange and that they rank just fine. It depends on how useful it is. It's just a guide. Don't obsess over the green. I would say 80% of the pages on my site are green, and then the other 20 are like all, orange. But some of those orange ones do just fine. So a lot of what, and again, a lot of what Yoast does is it's the measuring kind of the keyword density, making sure that you have it in the title tag and the H1. Definitely if you're going for a certain keyword, make sure that if that phrase is there in the title, like the preview of the snippet, like what you'd see in Google. Keywords at the beginning of the title seem to do a little bit better. But I would make like the title provocative to where people are going to click on it. And then, of course, in the description and all that. But I would say aim for readability above everything. But do mention, if you're trying to rank for certain keywords, make sure that you mention them in the page. But if it's close, then it's probably fine.
It's more important about readability and
Yeah.
that the content's of value. We picked up a site 2 weeks ago that they fired the previous people, and the previous people were going, but look, every single page has a green score.
Yeah.
Okay, this was for a bed and breakfast. You know how they got the green score? They put the keyword in as room 5.
Oh.
Oops.
So they were getting green all over the place. Meant nothing.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. she was paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month for this service, and they were just.
Garbage.
It was just garbage. So, yeah, the green is a guide. It helps, it can encourage you to go back and look at it again, but don't fix it.
I would put it this way, and that's an excellent point, James. The green is a guide. The green dots are a guide in Yoast. It's not the holy grail, because Google cannot tell what Yoast is doing. It can't tell if you have a green dot or an orange dot. Google does not know.
I got it back off a little bit. He's been pushing the green and we get.
No, Google can't see the green.
arguments now over
Yeah.
whether
It's just a guide.
it really has to be there or not.
That's probably one of the top questions that is around Yoast, though, is about the green dots. And I would say too, like, you know, with the titles, make sure that they don't cut off. That's a big one.
What do
Maybe
you mean
if,
don't cut
What do you
off?
mean?
yeah,
There's a character something.
yeah. So I always do the title of the post, and then, you know, the brand name, if there's room. And maybe, you know, if there's a third thing, maybe, you know, like, maybe like a secondary keyword, like first keyword, second keyword phrase, and then the brand name, if there's room, but there's some.
The title in the article can be longer than the title in the Yoast one. And that, we do that
Yes.
all the time. In our technology, we also add in a concept of a short title. So Erica is very familiar with the short title. What's this for? Because a lot of archive pages use tombstones to present the content, and the long title that's great for SEO on the post itself is terrible on the archive page because it's long. So we put in technology that allows you to do the short title, but that also helps with, gets around some of the duplicate content issues, and there's various benefits to it, but understanding that hierarchy of how Google sees this stuff is important.
It's excellent.
Can you talk a little bit about how you can use Yoast to make
Yeah.
your social media links work harder for you?
Yeah, see, that's a great one. So, yeah, definitely. So when you're editing a post or a page in Yoast, there's tabs where you can push out certain images or descriptions on Twitter. So if somebody is sharing it on Twitter, or when you initially publish it on Twitter or Facebook, you can have specific images or description for the Twitter and Facebook. So that's something that I do, is try and make images that are specific for Twitter, because I get a lot more traffic off of that. But I'll have specific descriptions there, because I think otherwise it just takes the meta description from the snippet. But that's definitely something that you can do, is gear it toward the platform that you're sharing it on. So.
And that helps avoid, if you've all seen Facebook posts where you've got, like, the first third of the headline is missing and the last third of the headline is missing. It's because they didn't put a proper image in. So Facebook grabbed whatever image you could find and shoved it in a square peg in a round hole. If you actually add the Facebook dimensioned image, and you may want, if your Facebook audience is different from other sources, you may change the title on the social media post, because you're speaking to a different kind of person on Facebook than you would someplace else. You can make those kinds of adjustments. You can also make those titles a lot more clickbaity versus the title of the post itself, which is going to be more informative. So that you can, it's very useful that way.
Yeah, definitely. Those are great points, James. Making sure that you're gearing the content toward each individual platform in the way that it wants to share that. So every social platform is a little bit different about how they want you to create content, or what content seems to do well. So.
And it's building on what John is saying, is that the whole point of content marketing is to create content that's useful to the audience. So that's going to take some work. But if you do it, then the audience will find it useful, and Google will recognize that.
Yes.
For images in WordPress, you have the alt text, but you also have captions and descriptions. or areas we can put that in. Is that takes a lot of time, but is it worth it? Is it really?
Okay, so, yeah, so that's a good question. So the question for in WordPress images, say your featured image, you can put in the captions and the descriptions and the alt text. Is that worth it? I would say without a doubt, always do the alt text for every image. Each theme is going to output that stuff a little bit differently. Some themes will output the captions. Most of them will output the alt text. I would say check the source code of a page, just right-click View Source and see if it's outputting the actual alt text. It should be. In most cases it does. But alt text for sure, and then the others, I would say, it depends. It depends on the theme. So, but the alt text is one of the things that Google looks at is on the checklist of, is this site accessible as far as ARIA and those sorts of things. So. More questions?
I've got one.
Yes.
So one of my previous mentors for SEO was really adamant about is that one page is only about one thing. Is that really, what do you think
Okay,
about
that's
that?
an excellent question because this is a feature that's in Yoast. I think it's in Yoast Premium, but where it lets you track two keywords or multiple keywords or as many as you want per page. Now, it depends on how you're looking at like keyword phrases. Definitely, a page can rank for variations on a keyword, for sure. That can happen. Do you want to optimize for like all of them equally? Probably not. You probably want to choose the one that either has the most search volume or you have the best chance of winning, meaning like the level of competition versus the volume. And then the other ones just kind of do what you can to optimize for it, but you can track it. And again, it's going to be a green dot versus orange dot versus red dot thing. But I mean, ultimately, what I would do for things like that is get a whole keyword list for a site, throw it in a project in Ahrefs. You could also use a tool like SEMrush. Those are like paid tools, but you can track like projects and you can track multiple keywords. And a lot of times you'll see one page will have like a whole slew of keywords that it's ranking, anywhere from here to here on. But optimizing it, I would kind of choose, a couple. I wouldn't go like crazy. But if you have like a super long piece of content that's around a subject, like a definitive guide to XYZ, then I would break it up into sections, and you could definitely probably rank for multiple things like that as well. So.
One of the things that could be very helpful to the small businesses that are here today is this concept of an SEO strategy. A lot of the tools that John was just referring to, like Ahrefs and Moz and et cetera, these are paid subscriptions, and they can get pretty expensive pretty fast for something that you're only going to use occasionally. So it's a good idea to engage with an expert like John to do an analysis of your site and your sector. He will find the keyword and keyword phrases that you actually have a shot at ranking. He'll put things in the context of local versus national. And then you have a strategy that you can work against. It doesn't have to be done all the time, because the reality is the vast majority of people do a terrible job at SEO. So you only need to do this much better, and you're going to do okay, particularly locally.
That's true.
It's true. I see this. We have hundreds of sites that we host and manage, literally hundreds. And I see this all the time. And having an SEO strategy that's been developed by an expert is worth every penny. You can pay me later.
Okay. You'll receive your commission check in the mail.
Yeah, no, seriously, because this is not what you do, but you can follow through if there's a roadmap. And that's what the SEO strategy will give you, is a roadmap. And then you know that I need to do write 6 articles around this group of keywords and related keywords, etc. I need to do this cross-linking. It's not that hard if you know what the strategy is. And Yoast is a great tool to help facilitate this. Again, it's a guide, but things like targeting your content and targeting the title and the description, depending on where it's going to be seen. Something that's going to be seen on a search engine results page needs to be clickbait. It needs to be something that people want to click on. The title of the article itself needs to be information, because at that point what you're trying to do is keep them there. He was talking about the line tactic, doing single lines. Again, you're trying to keep them there and draw them in. Once you draw them in, you want to make the pages look very friendly. That's where design gets involved, using pictures. So you can just think about it from the point of view of the outside in, and how your user is going to consume the content. And then those two things, an SEO strategy and understanding how your users are going to consume the content, will take you a long way. Would you support that?
Yeah, I totally support that, and that reminded me of something great that I want to add to this as well. Is one of the things that I do use Yoast for, and that I see underutilized as far as that, is the scannability of the page. Like, meaning, say you have like an H2 or H3 or whatever, and then so many paragraphs, and Yoast will tell you like, hey, you got like all this like wall of like regular paragraph text, and then before you hit like another headline. And that's something that's totally underutilized. You don't want to like overkill. You want to break it up into sections, like to where people can just like glance, like boom, 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 boom. Because, and again, you're talking about everybody is so used to consuming content online, they're not reading the whole thing like they're reading a book. Attention span is shorter, so make it scannable, like just boom, 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 super easy to.
And there's an old phrase from my youth, which makes it very old. Pictures tell, copy sells.
That's cute.
And so having that marriage between, when I speak in front of large audiences about these kinds of subjects, I'll have everyone raise their hand, and then I'll tell them to touch their chin while I'm touching my forehead. As Simon says, 80% of the room's got their hand on their head. People see before they hear, before they read, before they think, anything else they see. So pictures are really important, person with lots of pictures. But copy sells. You're not going to convince somebody generally with just a picture.
Very good. Yes?
I only read the headlines in articles because that's all the time I have, and I'm posting for all these people, so I just read the little headlines.
Yep.
And so it's a headline, paragraph. That is what I read.
Yep.
Very much.
But it's important. Well, and another reason why that's like really important too is like Google actually tracks like how far people are scrolling down the page.
Yeah.
If they just like scroll like once and then just I'm done, like it's like, well, maybe that page wasn't so awesome. If they're scrolling all the way down and they're kind of like stopping, a little bit, and then they're scrolling like a little bit more, they actually can navigate that. And so that's like, oh, well, maybe this page is like better than this page over here.
I
So
think also adding block quotes so that
Yep.
you're reading
Yeah.
Variety.
snippets and you keep going.
So I found out on my Etsy site, people will only read the first 2 sentences, and that's all that shows. They're only going to read that. They're not going to click more ever. So I put most of my information in the first 2 or 3 sentences. You said that earlier,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, and you want to do that too, like that's another thing, like as far as like mentioning your keyword, you want to have it in the first 100 words, and then also you want to reiterate it in the last little bit too. That's important.
No, this might be a silly question, but inside there, is there just an easy way for me to get a list of all my keywords? What keywords I've done in the title of the article?
Like as far as like, As far as like a list of all the keywords that you rank for?
No,
or
no, 'cause I
just the
have
keywords that you have? Oh.
It's just a list of all my articles with the keyword that I use.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, okay, so that's a great question. So, if you're in your WordPress site and you go to all posts, and then you go up in the top right, there's that tab with screen options. You can toggle that to where it shows, all kinds of different things. Category tag, the focus keyword, meta description, but you can toggle it to where you see the keyword. Yeah. I don't know that you can like export it like this. There might be something out there, but I'm not aware of it, but I know what you're saying. Like as far as that, like.
So nice.
Yeah. So, but Yoast will tell you if you've used the keyword before. If you try and use a focus keyword twice, it'll say you've already used this before. So you don't want to like do keyword cannibalization where you're competing.
Do you want to talk about canonical links?
Yeah, canonical links. So Yoast is also good for this. Canonical link is a link that says this is the definitive URL for this piece of content. So it's useful if you have if you moved from HTTP to HTTPS, because it'll output like, hey, this is the canonical definitive link, the HTTPS. As we talked about before, most of the time you don't need to mess with it too much. But if you're, for whatever reason, you can override it in Yoast. Say if you copy and pasted some other article, you could give credit to the original article. Or if you, in some other way, took an excerpt of your other post, but you want to give credit to that other page, you can use a canonical for that. For the most part, I don't mess with canonicals too much. I just recommend people just get on Yoast because it'll output it automatically. Yeah, but yeah, if you need to override it, you can, for sure. A lot of other CMSs don't do it by default, so but it's important because that's where Google goes. And again, you don't want to have two different versions where Google's either trying to go to HTTP or HTTPS or an old version of it. You always want to have redirects in place. If you ever do change the URL, Yoast Premium will do this. If you change the URL, it'll set up a 301 redirect, meaning if you change the URL and there's a link out there, or if people had it and they shared it, it doesn't just go to a file not found or a 404 page. It'll actually go to that new page.
Yeah.
If you don't have Yoast Premium, you can use a free plugin like Redirection to set up 301 redirects. So if you ever change the URL, make sure that you are adding a redirection to the new web address. Yes?
What if you implemented Yoast after you went from HTTP to HTTPS? What would you need to do, or what would be the result of that?
You wouldn't really need to do anything, but if you move from HTTP to HTTPS, what you will want to do is go into Google Search Console and set up the HTTP and HTTPS and www and non-www, and just make sure those are all there. And then also test your site and make sure that all of those resolve to whatever the domain is, whether it's HTTPS and www or no www. Just make sure that all resolves right. Because if there's ones that just go off into limbo, that's no good. Yeah, that's really no good.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
So, and I have a quick announcement for those of you who are in, say, the digital marketing or digital design field. Make sure you visit nctechconnection.org. There's a talent directory there, and list yourselves there. And for people who are looking for talent, you can go and look there, and also take time when you come to these events to network and arrive a little earlier. That's why we give enough time.
nctech.org?
So it's nctechconnection.org. And then maybe John will be here for a few minutes if somebody wants to chat with him.
I can hang out.
Thank you for being here. And if you would help us fold the chairs as you leave, that would be awesome.